am out at the Bridge Community Garden and I'm setting up. We have 3 of the 4 corners done, laying it out and getting all the raised beds in place. But I was trying to think of, a couple of you have said that you were interested in some of the natural gardening methods that I've been doing. So I was trying to figure out how I could fill my bed and still let you guys see what I'm doing, because once I do it, it's done and it's going to be hard to see. So I thought I would go ahead and just videotape. I just realized what an old term that is. I thought I'd go ahead and video. I just finished spreading this whole side of the wood chips and the cardboard so that I could try to get this video in tonight. We do have 3 of the first 4 raised beds taken, but we have 4 more raised beds that will be in place by community night on Wednesday. So if you're interested and you want to claim one, just let Autumn or I know. Anyway, so what I did is, if you saw an earlier post, you saw that I collected a whole bunch of decaying wood off of the property, because that wood is already started being broken down by local microbes. Microbes that thrive in this area. So those are the microbes that you want. So what I did is I made a little pile next to the community garden, and I just grabbed a few and put them in the bed. Normally, I think you'd probably set this bed down on the wood chips, on the cardboard, but we're doing the wood chips so thick here to really try to knock down the weeds that the wood chips are almost as high as the raised beds. So just went ahead and put them on top of the wood chips. I don't think it will hurt it. If anything, if we get a really good soaking rain, it'll just soak down and soak into those wood chips and really start some decomposition and get some microbes going. So another common thing, a lot of times logic tells you, if you're thinking about starting a natural garden and you want to lay down cardboard and wood chips, our instinct is to mow the lawn or mow the weeds down really low and then lay the cardboard. But the truth is, most plants, when you cut them, their reaction is like, oh my goodness, we need to push harder to grow. We're being attacked. So they will push harder to grow. So the better thing to do is not mow and just lay your cardboard right over top. Ideally, if you can wet the cardboard, especially if your ground is really uneven, the cardboard will kind of lay and conform a little bit better and not leave as many big air pockets. But a lot of people don't do it. It's fine if you don't. Just lay the cardboard, lay as thick a layer of wood chips as you can, and what that'll do is it will keep the weeds in the lawn from getting water and light and air, and it'll smother them, and they become food for the microbes in the soil eventually. And the reason why a lot of people use cardboard is because it does initially block that light and smother those weeds, but it does break down. It is mainly carbon, and so the soil loves it. It'll break down. Worms absolutely love carbon, so it'll draw worms in. Ideally, you don't want to use waxed cardboard. You don't want to use really heavily printed cardboard, and you want to try and get as much plastic off as you can. So that's tape, labels, that kind of thing. Everybody has a spectrum of tolerance on this kind of thing. Some people won't use cardboard because it has any ink on it, but a lot of companies, most cardboard ink is soy-based, so it's actually plant-based. The glues are also often plant-based, but some people will leave the tape on, some people will use waxed cardboard. It just depends on your personal tolerance. So we've got most of the cardboard laid. I've got what I'm going to claim as my raised bed, which is one of the first 4, and I've got the initial wood scraps in there. And so what I'm going to do is everything, you're going to create layers, and everything is either a layer of carbon or nitrogen. So carbon is things like twigs, branches, wood chips, leaves, anything that's kind of hard and brown. And then you're also going to put in some nitrogen. So this looks like a really pretty bouquet of flowers, but it's actually just some wildflowers and plants that I just went and ripped from the side surrounding the the property here. Fingers crossed I don't have any poison ivy or anything in here. I hope not. But I do know I've got some nettle. I think I actually found some chamomile. I'm not sure though. I have no idea. But what I do know is all this fresh green stuff is nitrogen, and the more you can layer your carbon and your nitrogen, roughly 50%, the more breakdown and the more nutrients and the more it's going to fill your raised bed. So the point is to put some bulk and fill up our raised bed so we're not having to buy so much soil or compost. And what this is really loosely based off of is a process called hugelkultur, which is an old, where they used to mound up, they would take logs and wood and greens and they would mound up and they would create these big mounds and they would cover it with soil and then they would plant on top of it. And as all that organic matter underneath the mound broke down and drew in microbes and worms and life and diversity, it would feed the plants above and it would eventually break down. So that's you can look it up. It's Hugelkultur, hugelkultur. So we're kind of basing this roughly off that. So what I'm going to do is, on top of this wood, I'm going to take, this is some wood that has been laying in my flower beds at home. So it is also really well inoculated. It's got all kinds of bugs and life all over it, but it's got some bulk to it, more so than just the twigs and stuff that I found here on the property. This is actually old firewood. So I'm going to take this first and I'm going to layer that in. So between the wood chips, the small pieces of wood, and these logs, I've got a lot, and then the wood chips that are underneath, I've got a lot of carbon. So now I want to go ahead and layer in some greens. I probably should put more greens than what I have just right here, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to try and speed it up. If I had some shears or choppers, it would be really better if I could chop this up. All right, so I've got my carbon, I've got a little bit of nitrogen. Now I want to keep inoculating this. So I actually have a couple of different things. I have some leaf mold, and what that is basically I just have an area in my yard where I collect all the leaves and acorn shells, kind of collect, and they start to rot and break down, and you get a lot of good microbial life there. So it's just called leaf mold, and I brought some over in a bucket. I'm going to spread that on now. If you want to put any of this stuff in your raised bed, just let me know. The firewood, I don't have a lot of that. You might have to find your own on that. But the greenery, of course, is all around the property here. But the leaf mold and the compost and the leaves that I'm going to show you, I have a bunch of that. So I could definitely help you with that if you want it. But this is, let me see if I can show you. And I see that my camera is tilting, so I think my whole video is going to be on a tilt. Anyway, that is just leaves decaying and acorns from a live oak and some twigs, and that has been laying in on some moist ground and getting wet and kind of breaking down for quite a while. So I wonder if you can see, it's pretty wet. So it's turning into soil already, all on its own. The next thing I have, so I've done carbon, nitrogen, I've done leaves with some compost, but this time I'm going to do another layer of carbon, which is just some leaves. You can use any leaves, but if your leaves are bigger, like you might be better off like running them through a lawnmower or just chopping them up. These are leaves from a live oak, so they're pretty small. Piece of concrete. Okay, since that was another layer of carbon, what I really need is some more nitrogen. So hopefully I will figure out the technical skills required to edit this part out while I go and grab some more greens. Okay, hopefully I figured out how to edit that and you weren't just staring at my raised bed for a while. But check it out. Does this not look like the most beautiful little wildflower bouquet? We have Indian paintbrush and nettle and all kinds of stuff that I don't know. I still wonder if that's chamomile, because if it is, I'll be really excited. But I just spotted this guy. This grass actually had some seeds, and I don't want that in my raised bed, so I'm gonna take that out. All right. Also, I did leave some of these pulled up right by the roots, and that is awesome because the best microbes in soil are right around the roots of plants, because they have a really symbiotic relationship. The plants, through photosynthesis, they feed what are called exudates, which is microbial food, down out the roots. They feed the microbes process the minerals and the vitamins and the nutrients in the soil, and they feed it back to the roots. So all your good microbes are right around the root balls. So I'm really glad I got some of those. So I'm not sure if you can tell from that angle, but this bed is almost full. All I'm gonna have to do now, I've got a little bit of immature compost, which immature compost just means that it's just fresh. It hasn't really broken down. It's not really soil yet, so it's gonna keep breaking down, but it does have a lot of microbial life in it, and so I'm gonna lay that right on top of my nitrogen layer. And then I have one more thing I'm gonna show you. Okay, that is primed to be super breakdown nutritious. I think anything that gets planted in here, there's already, I see all kinds of little bugs crawling around. There's so much life in here already that all I have to do is just put maybe a bag or two. I just need 1 or 2 inches of good finished compost. You can buy it in a bag. I like a brand called Fox Farms, and you can get it at Russell Feed, and that's what you can just direct seed right into. And because of what I have in here, if I wanted to transplant a larger plant, I would just make a hole and make sure that the entire root ball was surrounded by compost, because you don't want to plant right into this stuff. So my one other thing is, right now, except for the compost and the greenery that I put in here, everything else, like the wood and the wood chips and the dry leaves, is dry. And so I'm gonna wet it all down. But this right here, I'll gross you right out and hold it right up to the camera. So this right here, what I do is I keep a bucket at home, and I started it out with some leaf mold, and then I just keep putting, like, if I pull plants, if I pull weeds, I throw it in there. If I do any kind of ferments, I throw it in there. And what happens is you're kind of creating this nutrient dense fertilizer for free. Now, I will tell you, it smells like the bowels of hell burped in your face. It's awful. But you would mix it I'll probably put half of this in my, I think that's a 3-gallon, no, it's a 2-gallon watering can. I put about a cup in my can, and then I'll go refill my can and put some more in. But you definitely don't want to put this on straight. It'll burn your plants. And if you're actually watering it like on plants, like doing a foliar, then you would dilute it even more. But I'm really just kind of trying to wet this down and inoculate it and really get it cooking. So I'm gonna go ahead and I know it's really gross, but there's actually blueberries in here because I was making kefir water, and when I was done drinking it, I just took the fermented blueberries and just threw them in here. It becomes a food source for it. So here we go. That's so bad. My favorite fertilizer, if I'm not using a Jadam microbial solution, which is very similar to this, but you use potatoes as the food, Jadam microbial solution, or this, if I'm not using that, then I actually like a fish emulsion or a liquid fish fertilizer with kelp. It's just natural, and your plants absolutely love it. Alright, now it occurs to me that I took these wildflowers with their root balls intact and I put them in here, and then I put some really beautiful compost on top of them, so they may actually decide to start growing again, but they're so pretty. I'm not really sure that I'm mad about that. But once I get the compost on here and start planting some stuff, we'll see. So real quick to wrap it up, since these beds, if you're wanting to do one but you're a little bit concerned about the maintenance or the commitment or the size or filling it, if you have your own way that you like to fill a raised bed but you're just not sure if you want to do it, I did want to let you know that these beds are only about 19 inches wide by about 68 long, so they're not big, and so it's low maintenance. Come and hang out. You can see that this spot is starting to get dappled shade. I actually took the sunniest bed just because I think it's going to heat up in these metal raised beds and going to dry out because of the wood chips below it, so it may be a little bit more challenging. So I took this one, but the rest of them are pretty much going to be in shade by this time of the evening, and I think, I can't tell because that's my phone, but I think it's probably 7:30 right now. So Let that plane go by. Anyway, let me know if you want a bed. Let me know if you want any help with these inputs. I can definitely supply you with some. And oh, that was the one last thing I wanted to say. Since these are a little bit smaller, probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get like some kind of a trellis or cattle panel, put it right in the middle and try and grow vertically so that I can get as much in here as I possibly can. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully, if nothing else, we'll come see you around the fire pit.